If you visited the CCSM website recently, you will see that under the tabs it says About Us. You will find that we have some guiding principles there. Many Christian churches across the nation have statement of faith on their website when you search for About Us. And usually those statements of faith are a list of belief, statements of belief. And sometimes those beliefs are used as a litmus test for who can belong. What I want to suggest today is that faith and belief are not the same thing. So let me ask you a question. Can you choose whether or not you believe something? Think about it for a minute. I've got a no from the family down here. Can you choose whether or not you believe something? So this is a question that Brian McLaren asks in his book, Faith After Doubt. The subtitle, what to do when your beliefs stop working and what to do about it. And he has one of his initial chapters called Doubt and Loneliness, or Doubt as Loneliness. And in that chapter he says this, and I found it so helpful in thinking about belief. So just stay with me because I want you to really reflect on it. See if you can concentrate. Yes, you can choose to say you believe something, but whether you actually and authentically do believe it is less choosable than it seems. So he says, take for instance these things. There's personal belief, i.e. I believe my spouse is a loving person who doesn't lie to me and is committed to my well-being. Or historical belief, I believe Abraham Lincoln was the 16th president of the United States. Or aesthetic belief, I believe that every entree should contain hot sauce. Scientific belief, we've talked a lot about this in our country, have we not? Scientific belief, I believe that light travels at about 186,000 miles per second. Then there's moral belief, I believe that, for instance, sexual relations that do not involve two consenting adults of the opposite gender are sinful. Or dispositional belief. I believe that people are basically good and only behave badly by necessity. All right, so think about that just for a moment. Now go back over that list that I just read and ask yourself if you could choose to believe or disbelieve any of these statements. So if you found out that your spouse cheated on you or lied to you, then you'd have to question that first personal belief you had. If you're allergic to hot sauce or don't like spicy foods, you could choose, you would not believe, you could make yourself believe the aesthetic one, that I believe every entree should have hot sauce. And the list goes on and on. If you searched up Abraham Lincoln and found in every single source that you researched that he was the 16th president of the United States, could you choose to believe that he was the first or 7th or 23rd? Now, whatever you think about all these things, here's what McLaren says that is so compelling to me, so interesting. He says, what makes religious doubt so challenging is that in almost every religious community, the box of normative beliefs contain beliefs of each kind: personal, historical, aesthetic, scientific, moral, dispositional, and more. But it's seldom clear, he says, how a faith community expects me to hold this or that belief. For example, when I'm invited to say I believe there is one God who exists in three persons, am I making a statement of historical and scientific belief, or am I making a personal belief statement? Here's the interesting thing. Here in this faith community, this big tent, if I were to ask everyone, even listening in at this moment, or those who will listen in and watch later, if I were to ask you a question about, say, the Trinity, or the divinity of Christ, or the virgin birth, the resurrection, or the afterlife, some of the foundational beliefs of the traditional Christian church, I would get as many different answers as people that were asked. Are you with me? Now, the late Marcus Borg who was really one of the predecessors of progressive Christianity and really one of its most powerful proponents. He reminds us that believe comes from the Old English to hold dear, and it's similar to the word beloved. Believing and beloving were synonymous. So it wasn't about not believing a set of statements about God, but beloving God. I mean, think about it. What is the greatest commandment? To love God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and then love your neighbor as yourself. There's nothing in there about a set of beliefs, is there? To love God, believe and beloved were one, but along the way, many of us in the Christian tradition, I think, got it a little upside down. We put believing and belonging together rather than beloving. Because faith is not about a set of beliefs. Faith is a verb, it's a process, but even more than that, faith is loyalty, commitment in a relationship of trust. So when people say and tell me, I'm struggling with my faith, or I've lost my faith, I think there's different meanings and questions about that. Maybe it's that your beliefs aren't working for you anymore. Or maybe it means that you're struggling to trust. Here's the thing. Beliefs change over time, and so does faith. And that's as it should be, because relationships change and grow. We have ups and downs in relationships, just like we have ups and downs in our journey of faith, stages of faith. And the goal, now stay with me here, the goal is not to be consistent in all our beliefs, because what we believe and what we do not believe does not follow any particular logic for most of us. We are all inconsistent in our beliefs. All of us. Haven't we seen that this year? And you can't make someone change their mind just by logic. It doesn't work. We somehow think if we just present a certain amount of facts, people will change their mind. It doesn't happen that way. We've learned that. I don't think the goal is to be consistent because we're human with sometimes a competing sense of different beliefs, whether it's the personal, the moral, the scientific, or the aesthetic, or the dispositional. I mean, think of how we can be inconsistent. You know, if you remember back, depending on your age, it could be recent, it could be whatever, depending on your life situation, when you were maybe first dating someone and then you say to your friend, you know, I'm not going to go out with him or her again. I don't think, you know, it's really working. The phone rings, you pick it up, and then your friend hears you say, oh, Friday night, I'd love to. We're all inconsistent. We change our mind. We don't always follow logic, and the same is true, beloved community of faith. But beliefs and faith are not the same thing. We are invited to always be seeking, always be growing. And the familiar story of the wise ones that Ann Lee read for us this morning has so much to offer if we pause and look a little deeper of something that is so familiar we may not have even been listening. When the wise ones left their home, their countries of origin, though they were the sages, the philosophers, the astronomers, and astrologers, it was their wisdom that prompted them to search. Whatever their belief system, they trusted they would be guided, and they were willing to let go of the outcome. In other words, they were prepared for what they might experience, that whatever that was, that could upend, transform, maybe even deconstruct their belief systems or what they thought to be true. And to me, that is the hallmark of faith. I may or may not have to let go of some of my beliefs, but I may have to in order to experience deeper trust, in order to embrace mystery. And here's the thing about the wise ones. They traveled at night. They traveled in the dark, searching the night sky. And they traveled for almost 2 years. Have we not grown accustomed to traveling, stumbling around in the dark these last 2 years? And even at the end of their journey, initially they went to the wrong place, but their inner guidance, their years of traveling in the dark had deepened their wisdom. And I hope that this time of traveling and stumbling around in the dark during this pandemic has done that for us as well, has increased our wisdom. They knew when they first saw Herod not to buy into his manufactured fear. Are you with me there? They knew that the presence of the one they were searching for would be about the power of love and compassion, would be a child who would grow up as very close to some of the vows that Krista and Laura made to Cooper this morning, to help lead for a world that was more equitable and just, to lift up the downtrodden. It was a different bottom line. And when they found the child, they were overwhelmed with joy. And I'll say it as clearly as possible. If you can't find joy in your faith, keep searching. Keep searching. The wise ones went home by a different way. And how many times in my own life have I had to go home by a different way? You've heard me say before, and I feel in this moment so incredibly blessed to be part of a faith community where I can be my authentic self. When I can say to you as your pastor and one of your spiritual leaders, my beliefs have changed. I don't know what I believe about the creeds. In fact, I believe probably less than I ever have, but I have more faith than I ever have. I remain faithful to the teacher, Jesus, who embraced mystery and follow his teachings, to try to live a life of love and a life of justice. And I know that many of you listening in have profoundly different ways of thinking about faith. And we're all stumbling around in the dark, but that's where the light of faith shines brightest. To trust in the mystery. To believe at some deep level that you are held up by love. That you are the beloved. And that you are never alone. The great poet Renee Maria Rilke says of God, only in our doing can we grasp you. Only with our hands can we illumine you. The mind is but a visitor. It thinks us out of our world. He ends the poem by saying, I don't want to think a place for you, God. Speak to me from everywhere. Your gospel can be comprehended without looking for its source. When I go toward you, it is with my whole life. So friends, today, whatever your beliefs or not, however they might have changed or not have changed, I invite us together to be seekers, to be lovers of mystery, and to move toward divine love and trust with our whole lives. Amen.
My name is Cheryl Johnson, and I'm one of the ministers here at the Congregational Church of San Mateo. Today, I'd like to start off by saying thank you. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for becoming a part of our community. We are so grateful to have you with us. Today, I would like to extend an invitation. That invitation is for you to move from the sidelines straight into our sightline. We'd love to get to know you better so that we can be church with you and be church for you. We want to know how to pray for you, how to support you, how to develop a church that will provide you the most meaningful and the most spiritually enriching opportunity that is possible. Also, church is not a spectator sport, but it's a two-way street. We want to also get to know the skills that you have, the time, the abilities, whatever you may have that might enrich and enliven our church community. Also, we'd like to invite you to consider becoming a monthly donor. That is another way that we pool our resources and be able to offer more together than we could ever do apart. So thank you so much for being part of our community already, and please do just take that next step, share your information, reach out so that we can really co-create and rebuild our lives together and our church together as we go forward boldly into the future.